This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. What is the scenario for the Cleveland Browns that could happen realistically that would also set them up best for the future? Now, when you hear me ask that, there will be a lot of people who go to, of course, Quincy, I want the Browns to win as many games as possible. So the best case scenario is the scenario where the Browns win as many games as possible. But sometimes winning as many games as possible can kind of be a little bit of a gift and a little bit of a curse at the same time, right? Think about it like this. The Cleveland Browns in isolation over the last 5 years have had 2 11-win seasons that have unfortunately not carried over to sustained success. While we were going through those seasons, we thought that was the best case scenario. But the aftermath after those seasons has proven to be make that question a little bit more complicated, right? Did going 11-5 in 2023 allow us to kind of double down on an offensive line that was already showing its age in 2023? And maybe that wasn't the best thing for our future? It's a question you can ask, right? Sometimes success can be nothing but good for you, but also times success can, in the wrong place, in the wrong time, can not be the best thing for you in the future. But the opposite works too, because I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people hammering into their keyboards right now. If you want to know what's best for the Browns' future, it's to lose the most games as possible. But is it? Like, is tanking going to be the answer? I've been sold the tanking is the answer dream for decades. I've been a Browns fan a long time. I've heard that tanking is going to solve all of our problems for 25 years, and I've watched this team suck for 25 years, or for the most part of 25 years, and tank for a good chunk of those and not end up good. So not really the biggest believer that tanking is what's best for the Cleveland Browns' future. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to figure out what level of success would be best for the Browns' future and what exactly do the Browns need to see be successful in order to be set up for their brightest possible future. But before I get into that, got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules, just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy Juckins, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game is going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description. All right, so let's try to figure out what it is that's important for the Browns to establish and accomplish this year outside of what the specific win-loss record is going to be. Because for me, I don't think success will be driven this year for the Cleveland Browns in their win-loss record, more than it's going to be driven in things that are a little bit less tangible than a win-loss record, right? Momentum is going to matter. How you feel about how this team plays at the end of the season is going to matter. If you feel like they're building something versus something just straight up not working by the end of the season, that's going to matter, right? It's going to be more of a vibes-based season, right? I don't think the Browns are going into this season with an objective goal as their win-loss total, especially after the Myles Garrett trade. Before then, you can make the argument that they definitely wanted to win more than 5 wins because that's what ownership was saying publicly. But after that trade, everything gets recalibrated, everything gets reset, and things like that. Win expectation kind of goes out the window because you're saying the 5 wins and improvement, but you lost your best player and had to replace him. So all of that being considered, what are the goals that the Browns want to accomplish this year? The first thing is they want to establish some tangible momentum in building a culture with this team. Here's the thing about having a young football team. You are kind of on the clock to build this because you can turn youthful ignorance, right? Youthful, blissful ignorance into, a high caliber locker room culture if you win games. But if you lose games with a bunch of youthful, blissful ignorance on your team, there is a possibility that you could build a locker room full of losers, right? And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying this because I have spent my entire adult life loving this stupid football team, man. Okay. And because I have spent my entire adult life loving this stupid football team, I have seen plenty of situations where we feel good about a young core and young players on the roster, and then we don't win games, and then those players' attitudes start to sour, and their youthful ignorance becomes just ignorance. You feel me? Like, now we just got a bunch of losers on the roster that we got to get rid of so they can go somewhere else and learn how to be winners. All this shit about tanking, the part that drives me crazy is that tanking is really good for getting players. But if you can't develop and retain those players, then what's the point in having them in the first place? You know what I mean? And that's the part that tanking does not understand. Yeah, you can get a player if you tank, but then you'll just be the first team that player played for. Like the Browns tanked to get Myles Garrett. How good's that doing us in 2026? We tanked to get Baker Mayfield. How good's that doing us in 2026? That do us good? You know what I mean? Both players developed a bit of a resentment to the organization. You know what I mean? Both players had to get traded out for various different reasons. It's not a good thing. Tanking's not a great idea. But anyways, you have young players on this roster, which means you have a limited amount of time to guide that youthful, blissful, ignorant energy into something really positive for this team's future. And the way that you could do that is just by winning some games. You don't have to win 13 games. You don't have to win 14 games. You just gotta be decent. You can't be a pushover. You can't be a team that gets their ass beat all the time. You can't be a joke, right? You want to be somewhere between 7 to 8 wins or 6 to 8 wins. If you can get within that mark and you feel like a team that at the end of the season is starting to put it together, then you can channel that youthful energy into something that resembles a actual locker room culture. If you go out there and you just stink and you lose all your games and you get the number 1 pick, yeah, you might have Arch Manning. Maybe. And maybe Arch Manning is one of the few prospects that's so good that you can't mess up and he turns the Browns into a Super Bowl contender. Or you get Arch Manning, he's put into a culture, a team that's just too used to losing at that point, and then he doesn't develop the way that he's supposed to. And in 3-4 years down the line, you give up on Arch Manning because you got nothing but losers on the roster. And then Arch Manning blossoms somewhere else because now he has the opportunity to. Gotta win some games here, right? The draft picks matter. Yeah, I would love it if the Browns could somehow build a culture and get a top 2 pick. And if that's possible, I'm all for it. But they got to win games this year. I think it's non-negotiable. You got guys budding like Harold Fannin, Quincy Judkins. They need to get some wins under their belt to become leaders, right? Carson Schlesinger, your rookie class. Let's get this ball rolling in the right direction. And let's win some games this year so we don't end up in the same situation that we always end up with young talent. And look, the 2 examples I brought up in Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield, that is from an era of much more fortune than the Browns are used to be honest with you. Like, usually that cycle happens within 3 or 4 years. With Myles, it almost took 10. So, you know, that's at least progress there. But I mean, like TJ Ward, all these players, Joe Hayden, all these players that we had in Cleveland that tried to make something happen, but we lost too much. We became losers. We had to get rid of them, and then they became winners somewhere else. I'm so tired of that happening, and that happens when you tank and you don't win games. So win some games this year. Winning is important. You don't have to win all your games. You don't have to make the playoffs. You don't even have to try to make the wild card. But if you win somewhere between 6 to 8 games, that's going to be enough to establish something tangible for this team. I know some of the draft nerds are going to be pissed at me for saying this because how dare I say the Browns' best scenario is where they get the 10th pick in the draft or something like that, right? People who only focus on numbers or only focus on the draft will act like that's the worst thing that can happen. But the worst thing that can happen is the Browns have all this access to talented players but never be able to develop them properly because we just lose too many games to be able to have anything stick that matters with these players. And we're just constantly hoping for players who can just overcome everything. Let's not do that anymore. I want to do something a little different. I've seen this team do the suck model forever. Let's try to do something different. You know what I mean? So there's that. The other thing you want to see established this year is that the defense provides or proves that they can be still a top 5, at worst top 8 defense, even without Myles Garrett. If they do that, that'll go a long way in making it easy to develop this team. The other thing that you want this team to develop is a run game and receiving talent that finally gives this offense a floor. The biggest problem with the Browns offense, outside the fact that they have not had spectacular quarterback play, has been that they haven't had anything around quarterback play, so that when they do get bad quarterback play, there's no floor to how bad that can tank the offense, right? Like, you should have a floor offensively for what you can achieve, even if your quarterback is shitty. And if you have a run game and if you have good receivers, you can still put together a NFL offense with a shitty quarterback. Like, the Browns having bad quarterback play is not a good enough excuse for the offense to be as bad as it is. You should be able to be better than the Browns have been with bad quarterback play. I.e., remember Jacoby Brissett and how much we liked Jacoby Brissett? It wasn't because Jacoby Brissett was some secret franchise quarterback. We've seen his exploits outside of Cleveland. It's because that offense simply had a floor. Just give the offense a floor. The run game will give this offense a floor. Receiving talent will give this offense a floor so that, yeah, if we're starting somebody who's as mediocre as Jacoby Brissett was, we can still have a productive offense or an NFL quality offense out of it. That's one of the big things that you want to walk away from this season with, right? If we feel about Shedeur Sanders the same way we felt about Jacoby Brissett, that's a huge win, right? It's a huge win for Shedeur Sanders. It's a huge win for the Cleveland Browns. The last thing, and this is kind of related to that, is I would absolutely love it if Shedeur could establish himself as a bridge quarterback by the end of the season, right? Not going to put franchise quarterback on his shoulders until we get to the point to where talking about that is actually like reasonable, right? Let's just start with bridge. Can he be a bridge quarterback? Can he be Jacoby Brissett, right? If we give this offense a floor, can he be Jacoby Brissett? You might say that's easy. Obviously, he could be Jacoby Brissett, but there's not that many Jacoby Brissetts walking around. Right. So that's really where I hope that Shedeur can get himself to by the end of the year. Because if he does get himself to at least that place, right, then that gives the Browns the good kind of flexibility at the quarterback position to be able to solve this problem and not have to rush an answer to it. You know, if Sanders can be at a minimum Jacoby Brissett, at best, maybe we're hoping for like a Matt Schwab-like result from him. If you can get that out of him, that would put the Browns in a perfect situation to be able to solve their quarterback problem because Sanders is in the second year of his rookie deal, which is 4 years. So let's say we get to the end of this year, the end of his second year of that contract, and we're like, yeah, Sanders is good enough to start, but we're still looking for more at the top end at the quarterback position. Let's say the Browns have like the 10th pick and they trade up to get the 7th pick and they want to take somebody like a Lenore Sellers, right? The name of the quarterback that I'm using isn't really important here. It's just a fill-in for whatever quarterback would be at that role there. That would put the Browns in a position where they don't have to rush whatever young quarterback, for this example, Lenore Sellers, into starting in year one. They can let Sanders hold down the fort in 2027 and see what they can do with him at no extra cost because he's still under a rookie deal. Then while you're doing that, you can commit to developing Lenore Sellers behind the scenes and not rushing him to go out there and just letting him play when he's ready. And, you'll have some strong options for you available for you potentially at the end of that season if you do that. Because let's say Shedeur struggles, then you just go to Lenore Sellers, right? But if Shedeur is great during 2027, but you're doing your work with Lenoris and you feel really good about Lenoris and the work that he's doing, and you feel like he's going to be ready to start in 2028, then you can make Sellers the starter in the offseason and trade Shedeur for what would be a pretty healthy return, because if he does prove to be a young potential starting quarterback on 1 year of control on a rookie deal, that would fetch a good, healthy amount in return in the trade market, maybe even as high as a first-round pick in that scenario. So you would basically get everything back that you probably used to trade up, and you would have the quarterback that you wanted. In Shedeur's case, he would actually get to go somewhere that actually is committed to him, a franchise-level commitment, so that he gets his best chance to be successful. And, if Shedeur looks good but Sellers doesn't during that year, then you can just stick with Shedeur at that point, right? Like, you just put yourself in a situation to profit. This outcome for Shedeur is the best case scenario for the Cleveland Browns. It's the scenario that I am personally rooting for. I know, shocking, right? Because a lot of people have pegged me as this Sanders hater. I don't want Sanders to be successful. They think I don't want any level of success for Shedeur Sanders because I'm not willing to dick ride him, right? Like, that's crazy, you know what I mean? But that's the internet these days, right? I've been fair on every quarterback that has been through this door since I've started covering the team in 2018. So that's going to be what I continue to do. But for me personally, the best case scenario for the Cleveland Browns is that Shedeur does demonstrate himself to at least be a fringe level starting quarterback, a Jacoby Brissett level starting quarterback, because at that point we at least have options going into 2027. And the more options the Cleveland Browns have, the more flexibility they have at the quarterback situation, the less desperate they have to be. And the less desperate Cleveland has to be at quarterback, the more likely it is they can make a choice that's going to be successful for them. And that's what we want at the end of the day. It's just the Browns to be successful. But that's my thoughts on what a best case scenario for the Cleveland Browns might look like, trying to balance, what would be best for the future and everything else like that, with what they need right now, which is a quarterback, and you're going to need pretty good draft compensation for it. I think landing around the 10th pick, having some teams like if the Titans stink, some teams who are already committed to quarterbacks stink, then that also helps the Browns' cause, while also allowing them to be able to develop what's on their roster properly and giving them the flexibility needed to where they can be successful with a variety of prospect types at the quarterback position. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.